My beloved sister has 2 sons, so I have 2 nephews. Her firstborn is named after yours humbly, and so he's Marek. And her second son is named after our first Polish historical ruler. His name is Mieszko. Both of her children were born over 10 pounds big. Yes, we Poles in my family have big heads in many, many levels, but they were both past her due date. She would go through 9 months and nothing was happening. 9 months in a week, 9 months in 10 days, 11 days, and the boys were not coming out. The same story happened twice. So she had to have a C-section on both occasions. The doctors were concerned for both my sister and the babies, because there can be such a thing of too much of a good thing, right? Womb is the perfect setting for a child to grow, to develop, to become healthy and happy. But there is a time beyond which womb can become a tomb. So there is a time when a doctor has to say, okay, your baby has to come out. I know he doesn't want to. Who would like to face the world, right? I know he would prefer to stay in the safest place. But the time has come to face reality. The time has come to burp, to cry, and to introduce you to motherhood. So my happy sister had 2 C-sections, about 9 months and 10 or 11 days of her pregnancy. I can only imagine that when you are an infant in your mother's womb, you feel really happy and safe. You know, it is the place that you come to know and to like and to be comfortable with. It is your safety and comfort zone. You are fed, you are nurtured, and you are loved. And nobody wants to end such a happy vacation. Who wants to come back from a beach vacation to St. Louis in winter, right? We all would prefer to stay in Puerto Rico and never come back. But we have to face reality. And so babies have to leave their mother's womb and grow up, eventually leave their mother's and father's house and go to college, perhaps get married one day, perhaps go to seminary, or perhaps do both things, right? But there is a healthy process in life by which a good stage of our life ends in order to lead us to another good stage of the very same life. And rarely do we do it with excitement and with joy. Usually it's I don't want to. Especially if you are a mother facing empty nest. You have 1 or 2 or 3 children, and the last one finally leaves home. That's nothing to be excited about. You have identified yourself in terms of motherhood for what, 20, 25 years? And then all of a sudden, your house is empty. There is no more evening conversations. There is no more spanking, perhaps. There is nobody to yell at. Nobody to tell you, I hate you, mother. All these emotions and events are belonging to the past. And that is not a happy process. And yet, it is a necessary part of life. Sometimes I hear or read about children in their 30s and 40s who still live with their mothers. Perhaps with this economic situation, it is a necessity for many. But if you live with your mother in your 40s and 50s, even though you could afford living somewhere else, see a counselor. There is something unhealthy about that situation that makes you choose staying with your mom, staying with your dad, even though you should and you can afford living on your own. When God created humankind, God intended us to live forever. We were not meant to die. In God's original design, at least in the language of the Bible, death is not a part of that original plan. But something happens, we don't know what exactly, but something does happen that introduces death. And yet, if we look at life through the lenses of the Bible, we know that death is not meant to be permanent. That original design of God is to overcome death, is to have us alive, is to live our life abundantly, as Jesus will say. And perhaps the story from today's gospel reminds us once again that death is not meant to be permanent, that death is meant to be overcome. I can only imagine that Lazarus got comfortable in his tomb. 4 days in the tomb, he's stinking by that time. And then a powerful voice, a powerful command come out. I'm thinking that it had to be something like my sister's C-section. I don't want to, but I have to. Even tomb can become a comfortable place. Even something as depressing as the reality of death can become a familiar place for us. It can become our comfort zone. And who enjoys leaving the comfort zone? Lazarus does come out. He's tied, hands and head and legs. Jesus tells him, untie him and let him go. The process of being tied, this way, the process of being tied down by the reality of death limits us. When we die, we cannot walk, we cannot talk, we cannot love, we cannot enter into relationships. And yet, it can become so tempting to remain in the tomb or to remain in the womb. Strangely enough, in English, tomb and womb differ by one letter only. I'm wondering how many times I have found myself in this tomb-like situation, that I have become accustomed to any particular environment. And even though it stinks, even though I cannot move a finger or a toe, I enjoy it, because that's what I know. That's what is familiar. And leaving that tomb or leaving that womb will be a challenge. But we are not meant to be dead forever, even if that death is so comfortable, even if the death is so familiar. Think of your situations in life that you have grown accustomed to something that is unhealthy, to something that is not good for you anymore, and how painful it is to walk out of that tomb, to come out from that unhealthy environment. The easiest example is our addictions. Whoever had to go through giving up smoking, you know how painful it is. It's almost like dying within yourself. It's really physically painful process at times. And yet, we know we have to do it if we want to be healthy. So, how many relationships did we have to leave behind because they were unhealthy? When we finally had to face the truth and say, this is not a womb anymore, this has become a tomb for me. How many churches did we have to leave behind because these communities have become unhealthy for us? How many any other given situations we have grown accustomed to but eventually had to leave because they have become our tombs? What is the difference between a womb and a tomb? A womb is life-giving. A tomb is life-taking. When you find yourself in a situation that is life-giving, that nurtures you, may it be a church, a relationship, may it be a friendship, continue it, nurture it, thrive in it. But when you realize that any particular situation, a relationship, a church, friendship, a job, has become life-taking, then hear the voice of God saying, Diane, come out. Leave that life-taking place behind you. Let go. Untie your burial clothes and let go. Leave the tomb in the past. Walk out of your gravesite and live your life in a healthy and a holy way. Now, it happened to me multiple times, and I'm sure it has been happening to you on many occasions as well. We all had to go through that process of coming out from the tombs of unhealthy relationships, churches, jobs, situations. Nothing pleasant, nothing pretty, but a necessary part of life. Just like my poor nephews, sometimes we have to cut ourselves open and leave that womb and begin a new life. So come out and have life in abundance.